Good morning and welcome to the Peorian. I'm your host, Paul Gordon. Every year, the film industry virtually floods theaters with new movies right around the holidays, usually starting before Thanksgiving and continuing through the end of the year. And as most of you know, few of those films are related in any way to the holiday season. So what is the reason for this? Well, I used to think it was because school kids get vacation at the holidays, so they'll want to go see movies. Well, considering many of these films have rather rough content and or language, I doubt that's it. Well, then maybe it's because people want to do indoor activities when they go out in the colder months. Well, it probably has more to do with getting these films out before the end of the year for either financial reasons or if the film is good enough so it can be eligible for Oscar nominations. Well, this year's no different. And on today's episode of The Peorian, we're going to introduce our new film critic, Tim Wyman. He's not a journalist, he's not a filmmaker, he's just a guy who goes to a lot of movies. He'll be my guest when we come back, and later, our own literary expert, Kevin Kizer, will be on with me to talk about books for the holidays. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Peorian. My first guest today is Tim Wyman, who's going to be the new film critic for the Peorian. You can follow his critiques on our website, thepeorian.com. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're on the team. I want to know, what, in your opinion, is the reason that so many movies, especially blockbuster type movies, come out right at the end of the year?
Well, the Oscar season is starting right in November, so those films that the movie houses think that the Academy will look at are released and promoted and sold and marketed and everything else for the Academy Awards at the first of the year.
Do they have to be out by the end of the year?
Right,
to be
December 31st, right?
Okay. That's why, we'll see films that coming out of the holiday season that have nothing to do with holidays.
Absolutely. Those are the ones that are the tightest scripts that the houses want to market.
Okay. I've always wondered about that. There's already been a lot of movies released this holiday season. I should, remind our viewers that we do film in advance. What have you seen so far, and what would you recommend that our viewers go see?
I just saw Argo, which was an excellent movie about the Iranian hostage situation in 1979. It was one of Ben Affleck's better movies. So I would encourage people to go see that. I saw Seven Psychopaths, which was excellent, by one of my favorite playwrights, Martin McDonagh, who's gone over into Hollywood. That is some spectacular writing, although the plot is kind of simple, but it's a great movie.
Now, right before we taped this, the Hitchcock movie was going to come out. That's one you're obviously going to see.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins and Helen Mirren are two of my favorite actors, and Scarlett Johansson is also in that. It's a biopic of Hitchcock while he's filming the movie Psycho. So it hopes and intends to be pretty good. Any
particular reason that the writers chose that movie, that he was filming Psycho? Did they choose that time period to do this?
I just think it's his most well-known, so therefore it's the most marketable, I think, is the reason that they chose it. So the advanced reviews seem to be pretty good. So with those two actors of that caliber and ilk, it should be no problem selling that.
And speaking of terrific actors who can portray real people, Lincoln.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, it hopes to be pretty good. Spielberg, and of course, we get a score by John Williams, so that's pretty cool. Okay. And so we're all looking forward to that. And the advanced reviews on that are outstanding. It's supposed to be an Academy Award movie for Spielberg.
Okay. What are some of the movies that you're looking forward to coming out between now and the end of the year?
Well, the first one would be...
today be November 25th.
25th, absolutely. Yes. The Hobbit, which is going to be released on December 15th. That's Peter Jackson. And he's taken the prequel to Lord of the Rings and remaking The Hobbit. They just announced that it's going to be 3 films released over the course of the next 2 years. So the first one's December 15th, and the original cast is back, which is kind of challenging because they're not in the first book, The Hobbit. So we'll see what that brings us. So I'm looking forward to that.
Why would he do the prequel later? Star Wars did the same thing.
Right.
Why do that?
Well, I think it's because the three movies, The Lord of the Rings, were so successful that they wanted to build upon that. And The Hobbit is an exquisitely well-written book. So I think those two lend themselves to that.
Okay. And another biggie that's coming out right on Christmas Day, I believe.
Les Miserables.
Les Miserables.
Right. Let's see, who is in that? Hugh Jackman, Russell Crowe, and Anne Hathaway.
In what roles? Do you know?
Valjean, and then Russell Crowe is playing, help me here.
Javert, whatever.
Javert, yeah. And then Anne Hathaway is playing Eponine.
Okay.
So.
Do they all do their own singing?
Yes, they do. So.
Now, I know Hugh Jackman has done a lot of Broadway.
Absolutely, that's where you got to start.
Okay. Russell Crowe, does he sing beyond his little band?
I don't know. He's got a band, I know. I don't know how well he sings, but I imagine, when they put this kind of money into a movie that he sings pretty well.
I would hope, of course, they used Clint Eastwood in a movie where he sang once too, and Marlon Brando. Mm-hmm. What are some of the other movies coming up?
The one I'm looking forward to most is Killing Them Softly, which is a movie that stars Brad Pitt and Sam Rockwell, Gandolfini, Ray Liotta. It's a story about a mob enforcer who has to enforce these two very minor convicts roll a mob poker game, and it surrounds that. It looks very funny. Previews are very good.
When's that due out?
That is due out November 30th.
Yeah,
So
Killing Them Softly. What a title for a holiday movie. Mm-hmm. I guess that's what I was getting at.
Right. Well, if you want a holiday movie, they've got The Rise of the Guardians is coming out. It's written by David Lindsay Abaire, who's written a lot of Broadway stuff, and it's an animation from DreamWorks. It's got Santa Claus, Easter Bunny. They all get together and save the world.
Okay. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Kevin Kizer. And Kevin, as you know, is our literary guy, and we're going to discuss some of the best holiday books that are out there right now. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Peorian. I'm with Kevin Kizer, the Peorian's literary guy. Kevin, is the book industry anything like the film industry in that they rush a bunch of books out on the market right before the end of the year?
Yes and no. You don't really see in the book industry like the film industry where they don't have Christmas books so much come out per se. Unless a lot of times if there are Christmas books, they're by popular public figures, not so much authors, somebody who has a brand name in their name and they're trying to sell a book because of that. Glenn Beck comes to mind. He wrote a Christmas book a few years back. That was
Glenn Beck?
Yeah, and it was a straight, there was no political message. It was a straight Christmas book, The Christmas Sweater, I think it was called. But a lot of times the industry will be putting out big books this time of year just to capitalize on the holiday season. J.K. Rowling's book, although that came out like a month or so ago, her first big boy book, as we call it, Casual Vacancy, that's a huge blockbuster, and it's going to be huge during the Christmas season. There are a lot of books about authors coming out this season, which is really a trend I see happening more and more. There are 4 coming out on Hemingway alone in the next 6 months. David Foster Wallace, Central Illinois native, he has 2 books coming out. And there's a book of essays that is out now, right, perfect for the holidays, called Both Flesh and Not, where it's 15 of his essays put together. And when you think of essays, you think of something boring from school, but he writes about the importance of Terminator 2 is one of his essays. So it's very interesting reading, so I would highly recommend that.
Was there importance to Terminator 2?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was a blockbuster, and it was one of James Cameron's biggest movies. Okay. And he also writes about tennis, about Roger Federer. It's really incredible. He's a great writer, and if anybody and everybody in Central Illinois should take at least a little bit of time and read some David Foster Wallace.
Okay. Now, when they put books out toward the end of the year, whereas Tim Wyman just told us that the movie industry does it for Oscars purposes, the publishing industry does it because they're good gifts?
Yes, yeah, and the awards are usually, the Bookers and the big awards, they're a lot of times the nominations come out before the books are even published.
Oh,
so
okay.
before they're published for the public. So they're kind of done in advance, so you don't really have the same situation.
Are there other books coming out you want to talk about, or?
You know what? But there is a book coming out. It's kind of a combination of both, book and movie. The On the Road adaptation is coming out December 21st, which has been bouncing around for 50 years. Marlon Brando was originally one of the first people to be involved with that. And now it's finally coming out 50 years later with an unknown cast.
You wrote about that.
Yes, wrote about it and talked about it.
In our magazine.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few issues ago. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I am. It's a loosely fictionalized account of the book. It's not a direct adaptation of the book. It's a loose adaptation of it.
Same title, though, right?
Same title, yes.
Okay. Are there very many, I should say, holiday-themed books that are any good out there? Besides The Grinch Stole Christmas.
You know, you really, I've not really found any. I think kind of Charles Dickens ruined everyone for it, because what a lot of people don't know is that A Christmas Carol actually helped to repopularize Christmas in the public's mind. At that time, it was kind of going towards more of a religious-based, only religious-based celebration in England, and as Catholicism wasn't very popular at that period, it was kind of dying out, where when he wrote about it, the Christmas Carol, it popularized it again and made it okay for every family to celebrate Christmas. It kind of rejuvenated the holiday.
Hasn't James Patterson or Nicholas Sparks, they've done Christmas-themed books, but they weren't really big sellers for them.
I think Nicholas Sparks was, but they definitely pale in comparison to their other works. That's a situation where they're truly trying to capitalize on the holiday. It's not their wheelhouse.
Not their wheelhouse.
You know?
Yeah. We're going to take a break now. When we come back, Tim Wyman will rejoin us, and we're going to discuss, the three of us, our favorite holiday films. But now Kevin's going to go do his thing, his usual weekly segment on what's happening in literature. And Kevin, please, don't forget to come back.
Hey, it's another oven-fresh edition of Kevin Reads Stuff So You Don't Have To. And this week the book is Thomas Becket, Warrior, Priest, Rebel by John Guy. Now just to give you a quick background on T. Beck, he was the Archbishop of Canterbury from 1162 to 1170 under King Henry II. Now considered a saint and a martyr, he's probably best known for butting heads with the aforementioned Henry regarding the rights and privileges of the church. Henry was seeking to have a freer hand in matters where church and state met, and a weaker connection to Rome. And he was able to win over his retinue of clergy folk through one means or another, all except for one, Thomas Becket. After much haggling and bureaucratic bureaucracy, T. Beck was charged and convicted with malfeasance and contempt of royal authority. He went on the lam for 2 years, hiding in abbeys and dropping the hammer of excommunication on clergymen who sided with King Henry left and right. And it was at this point Henry is rumored to have said, "Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest?" Well, 4 knights decided to oblige, and on December 29th, 1170, near the high altar of Canterbury Cathedral, they murdered Thomas Becket, cutting off the top of his head. The crowd that gathered was said to have torn off pieces of the archbishop's clothing and dipped them into a gruesome puddle of blood and brains. They discovered that Becket was wearing a hair shirt under his garment, which back in the day was a sign of repentance as opposed to repellence as it is today. Prior to their religious fallout, Henry and Becket were famously close, so much so that there were rumors that they might have been lovers. But the author Guy dismisses this based on little evidence, instead hedging his bet that if Henry knew Becket was homosexual, he would have undoubtedly used it as ammunition in their very public feud. Guy does an excellent job of heightening the drama despite the fact that the meetings, offers, and counteroffers had to be quite grinding, grueling sessions for the participants. Thankfully, that's not the case for readers. And as it turns out, Becket and Henry both had a dramatic flair, especially during council sessions. In one case, Becket wielded his sword like a battle lance against an uncooperative cleric. In another, when he thought Becket might appear for Mass, Henry changed the order of service at the Royal Chapel to the Liturgy for the Day of the Dead. In the end, the book is obviously tragic, but also darkly comic. And Becket comes across, as Guy puts it, as prickly as he was smooth, a man with the habits of a hedgehog. So there you go. Another award-adjacent episode of Kevin Reads Stuff So You Don't Have To, and the book is Thomas Becket, Warrior, Priest, Rebel by John Guy. And as always, you are welcome.
Welcome back to the Peorian. I'm with Kevin Kizer, the Peorian's literary guy, and Tim Wyman, our new film critic. Okay, you guys. Favorite Christmas movies. It's a Wonderful Life. Mm-hmm. Need I say more? Mm-hmm. Oh.
It's getting old, but
yeah, truly. I mean, I love all the classic Christmas movies, but I'm getting tired of them. I can only watch them so much. So
You have to watch Wonderful Life once every Christmas, but
Right.
that's it. You
Yeah.
can't do the 24-hour thing anymore.
no, same
No,
with
you
with
can't.
the what's the one from
Christmas
the-
Story?
A Christmas Story. That's got one of the most
Iconic.
iconic images anywhere with the leg lamp.
Absolutely. Plays off the nostalgia that, not too many Christmas movies can pull off anymore.
Yes.
That era was just so beautiful.
What else is out there? What's your favorites?
Well, the one I always wrap presents to on Christmas Eve is Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean that's got iconic moments in it as well, and
Yeah.
catchphrases that we use all the time.
I would say it's probably the most quotable of the Christmas movies, especially of our generation. I
Absolutely.
can't, maybe that and Die Hard, perhaps, but for different reasons.
You can't say those on TV.
That's right. Not at this hour, at least. So yeah, I love Scrooged. I know it's one of your favorite movies
it
too, just because it took a twist off the classic story, the classic Christmas Carol story. So and it's Bill Murray at his Bill Murrayest, perhaps. And one of the times where Bobcat Goldthwait is actually, you can.
Very underrated actor.
Yes.
Yes,
When
very
he
much.
tamps it down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that movie has something special for me personally because I grew up in Indiana, and it's one of the times where, when they make a phone call and they give out a phone number, it's always 555.
Yeah.
This is one time where they didn't do that in the movie. Maybe it is now in the DVD, but in the original, it was 674-9565. And the only reason I remember that is because one of my friend's phone numbers at the time. And we were all in the theater together, and they said it aloud on screen, and we were just like, holy crap, that's our friend's phone number. So that always sticks out in my mind.
Interesting.
What other classics? If you want to talk about classics, Adam.
As far as classics go, Christmas Carol, with
Which
Alistair
version?
Sim, Alistair Sim, 1951 movie. That's by far and away the best of them. Certainly not the Muppets or something silly like that.
Now, I have to take issue with that because every story is better when told by the Muppets. I think that's
Every story?
every story.
Really,
Schindler's List, Sophie's Choice, Miss Piggy's Choice. You got them. They
you need counseling.
that does not change the. Okay.
Some of the other favorites, and it's sort of not a Christmas movie per se, but Die Hard was filmed during Christmas, it's
Yeah.
Christmas Eve. So, that's every guy's, Christmas movie go-to, Christmas movie.
Yippee-ki-yay. But
Well, that's a good example of a movie that even though Christmas is central to it, it's not really central to it, but it's a movie that, it tangentially relates to it. I think of Toys by Robin Williams is another one. One from when I was a kid was Better Off Dead by John Cusack, where it goes on over a period of time, but it's generally over the Christmas holiday. Christmas doesn't have a lot to do with it other than his father, David Ogden Stier, dressing up like a reindeer, which was one of the more striking images. But it's certainly not a great Christmas movie or anything. It's just, in my mind, something I associate with that period.
Right.
a lot of the classics have been remade, and the remakes are never as good.
No.
Can you think of any remakes that were as good, or? I mean, A Christmas Carol has been made in how many versions?
At least 10.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But that tells you, it's a classic.
Yes. Miracle on 34th Street. I think somebody remade it.
They just did
once.
that, I can't remember who did it, but, the original version with Natalie Wood is still the best.
Yes. I think they remade. Actually, it's been remade twice because
Matthew-
with
Matthew
Sebastian Cabot
Yeah.
once, and then with the guy who was in Jurassic Park.
Oh, give me...
Sam Neill?
Sam Neill?
No, the old man played Santa Claus.
Oh, he's passed some time ago. Okay, yeah, him.
Now we're just sitting here trying to think of names.
Names, exactly.
Okay, let's get off
A
of that.
Christmas
then.
Story they did a sequel to, which was pretty. I don't even think it got released. I think they got it. I think it went to DVD and they packaged it with the Christmas Story. I could be wrong on that one though.
Really?
Really?
With Ralphie as an adult or something? Or?
It was basically retelling the story just a little bit older. I didn't see it, so I'm not. Doesn't sound like anybody saw it. So.
And I saw a horrible remake with a different title, thank God. It's a Wonderful Life, and it had Marlo Thomas in it as.
There are just some things that
George
should be
Bailey
remade.
character. I agree, 100%. What are some of besides the leg lamp, what are some of the things that we think of the most as far as iconic images or scenes from Christmas films?
I think, and I'm corny, and I'm probably in the minority, but I like Home Alone. That scene in the church between Macaulay Culkin and the old neighbor, when he introduces his family, that's pretty cool. And that's all set to John Williams' score too. So I like that movie. It's one of the few farces that I think work.
But is that the scene that everybody tings of when they're thinking of iconic? Don't they mostly think of?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's on the box cover.
We're going to wrap it up. I hope you've enjoyed today's show and that you can put the opinions of our two guys here to good use when deciding what films to see or books to read this Christmas season. Remember, you can see today's show in its entirety on our website, thepeorian.com, following this broadcast. And you can go out to our website to catch a little more of the discussion between Kevin, Tim, and myself that we're going to do when the cameras stop rolling. Be sure to join us next week here on WHOIN on our website, and have a good week.
Música